Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. This is Queen Carlenia, and I am the founder of Project Home, where we are reconnecting our Afro-Rakanu and Afro-Right Kaitnut African Black family with our ancestral heritage. We are restoring our divine connection and organically reclaiming our birthright. We are answering an ancestral call and creating communities that care. And I'm also the author of Soul Marked for Life, Nana Adjoa's daughter. And it is uh, an accounting of incredible encounters with the ancestral realm, encounters I didn't go looking for, I didn't go searching for, I didn't know my ethnicity, my heritage mattered. I really didn't know it made a difference. But it's not only my story, it is our collective story of our journey back home as well. And so as we begin to wake up and realize who we are, we are taking back our power. I had an incredible encounter today with one of my mentors, Queen Mother Movell, and she came to remind me and show me on paper. I was actually at the library and she walked in and she's a teacher. She just began to teach as we were talking. And I said, you know what? I want to share this information today. So there I want you to imagine a triangle, and at the top of this triangle is reality. Right here is affinity, and right here is communication. So at the bottom of the triangle is affinity and communication, and at the top is reality. Well, the more we are in communication with each other, the greater affinity we have, and the greater is our shared reality. So when I say something or you say something, because we have a very good affinity, closeness, you get what I'm saying and I get what you're saying. If any one of those things begin to go down, I begin to lose reality on whatever you're talking about or vice versa, what happens? Everything else in that triangle goes down. If I begin to lose reality on whatever it is you're talking about, my affinity with you um, begins to move apart. That means my communication begins to move apart. The relationship begins to disintegrate. But it's not just our communication, affinity, and reality. It also, this also speaks to our purpose, to the barriers we face, and to how much we experience freedom. So, again, if any one of these three things go down, like if we're off purpose, guess what? When we're off purpose, we are running into barriers. And the more barriers we run into, the less freedom we experience. When we begin to move in alignment with our purpose, the less barriers we experience and the greater freedom we experience. And so everything operates in relationship to the other. And that also is connected to another triangle that speaks to our knowledge and our control of our environment and our responsibility. So as my responsibility increases, my knowledge increases, and the control of my environment also increases. But if my level of responsibility goes down, my knowledge also decreases, and my ability to control my environment, my situation and circumstances also decreases. So everything is in communication. And how we communicate, it matters. Communication has to do with listening. Listening has to do with um, when we listen. then we're better able to respond. So when we talk about responsibility, it really is our ability to respond to whatever is being communicated in the environment. And she reminded me, she said, look, if you were not in communication with the chair that you're sitting on, you couldn't sit on there. it, there's an understanding that you have that you may not be consciously aware of, but there is a communication. There's an agreement for you to sit in this chair and for this chair to hold you. If you didn't think the chair could hold you, you would not sit in it. So there's a level of trust, which means there is an affinity, and there's a shared reality because the chair is actually holding me. Right? The same thing I believe that it is strong enough to do. There's a level of communication. And so when we think about the challenges that we have as a people, the amount of barriers that we face, um, the amount of barriers that we face, we're out here, a lot of us fighting for freedom, railing against things that are outside of us, people and institutions, and you got to treat us right, and you're not being fair, and we're focused. Our focus is outside of ourselves. But when you get what I'm talking about and what she was sharing with me is, no, when you turn your focus inward, you take your power back, you redirect your energy, you can focus on yourself, on your purpose, and you can see for yourself in real time that the more you come into alignment with your purpose, with the reason Mother and Father God put you here on this planet, the more knowledge you gain, the greater information you have. That means the greater control you have over your environment, your circumstances, the greater you are able, your ability to respond increases. And all of that because you're walking in alignment with your purpose, which means that the barriers that you face are much less, and so you experience way more freedom. Now that didn't have to do with anyone on the outside of you. You see, Mother, Father, God gave us everything that we need to protect ourselves, to grow, to um, to save ourselves when we get into challenges and binds. But our lack of knowledge, doesn't the Bible say, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge"? Not everybody. It said, "My people." God is saying, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." So when you are able to regurgitate information from your scriptures, but there's a relationship with Mother, Father, God, and the forces in creation, and you may call them angels, with your ancestors and ancestresses. When there is a lack of relationship there, then the barriers that that you come across are greater, and you will find yourself praying and hoping and wishing that God will do something to open a door, but you carry the keys to the door. You are the mothers and fathers of humanity. You lack nothing. You lack nothing. You came here equipped. We came here equipped. And I always say, we have a right and a responsibility to return to our roots. Because when we don't return to our roots, there's information, there's knowledge that we don't have. And so we run up against barriers and we keep spinning, doing the same thing as we watch our circumstances getting more and more difficult. We come across barriers that we don't even have any idea how to cross because you don't have the knowledge. And as Queen Mother Mobile reminded me, her name means moving veils, but as she reminded me, who is going to allow you to govern with all the power that you contain? Who is going to allow you to govern with the power that you contain without knowledge of who you are? You will be destroying things. You will be no different than our open enemies. You will be destructive. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. And knowledge hasn't left the planet, it's right here. But we have to take responsibility. You may think your life is great and all of that in your estimation. But if you don't know your roots, you don't know who you are, there's something at your core that is missing. There's something at your core that is missing. And you will run up against you will continue to run up against barriers. You will run up against barriers, and you may not even recognize. You know what? That's the thing. Sometimes we don't even recognize the barriers because we're literally ignorant of it. You don't know what you don't know. And so you think the barriers that you're running up against are things that people have placed on the outside of you. And it's not to say that they haven't done things to suppress us as a people. Yes, but they have no power over us if we know who we are and we know how we operate. And again, no man is an island. No woman is an island. We operate together. So as you come up in your thinking, in your clarity, in your ability to respond to the situations and circumstances that you are facing, you're also helping those in your environment to come up as well. So our ability to listen is very, very key to all of this, because there's no communication without listening. When our people, you see, they like to put on the television and on the news, they like to put our people who are innocent, they like to show them. They like to show them vulnerable. They like to show them being abused. They like to show them being killed by these security forces in this country. They will replay that over and over and over, just garnering our attention while they're doing whatever else they want to do. As they do that, what are we doing? Are we experiencing powerlessness? Because they have studied this to a high degree. And what they know is that when our men see that over and over and over, their scientific studies shows that it lowers their testosterone, right? That means it lowers their will to fight. They know that. They know what they're doing with their program, but they have no ability to stop you. The only thing that stops you is a lack of knowledge, a lack of knowledge of who you are, how you're connected to Mother and Father God, how you are connected to the forces in natural, how you are connected to your ancestors and ancestresses, your honorable ancestors and ancestresses, and how they are here to help to guide you and to help you navigate, help us navigate throughout this life. That's what you're missing. And so many things that you believe wholeheartedly, you waiting on God for, God's waiting on you. Because Mother and Father God have given us everything. I promise you, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. And how you leave here matters, because there is life on the other side of this life. There's life on the other side of this life. And you're not going to just magically change and just transform if you haven't grown. They try to lie to us about reincarnation. No, the body doesn't come back, but the spirit does. And that's why you see little children who are what we would call geniuses or child prodigies. They can sing, they can play, they can dance, they make extraordinary advances in science. These things are natural. You're looking at someone who is highly developed, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. They've lied to us about who we are. as if we just go to heaven and then we just sit around and what, live in a mansion and walk on gold streets, and what, we have a purpose over there too. Even when we're there, we have an assignment. Everything that Mother, Father, God gave life to has a function, has a purpose. So when we're off purpose, this is why we run into barriers. When we're on purpose, doors begin to open in amazing ways. In amazing ways. Now, again, this is why we have a responsibility to go back to our roots, because we're not operating within our culture. So this is why I'm always saying we're operating outside the ancestral jurisdiction. We're operating outside the jurisdiction of Mother and Father God. We are operating outside of how God created us to operate as a people. And this is why, and as individuals, this is why we have trouble, we have problems reclaiming and regaining our resources. We think the fight is out there. No, it's in here. It's within our own minds. We don't understand how we're connected. And when we begin to understand, that's why we go to the altar. That's why we go into ritual. We go into ritual because ritual is a place, it's a different level of consciousness that we're engaging in. It is the place where we protect ourselves by incorporating those things, those objects, those deeds and entities that we need to incorporate so that we can operate in divine order. And it is the same place that we reject those things, those objects, those deeds, those entities that we need to reject in order to restore divine balance. So this is where we maintain our sanity. That is a system that Mother and Father God designed and that was given to our people and is still given to our people by the Abosom, by the Orisha, by the Vodou. This is how we operate naturally within our own natural environment. The environment we live in has been so tampered with by those that are in control temporarily of the planet that we don't even know how we're supposed to function. And most of us are functioning just like them. And we think as long as we're not doing somebody harm, we're doing good. No, we're out of order. We're out of order. But in returning to our roots, in beginning to research your family. Who is your grandmother? Who is your grandmother's mother? Who's your grandfather's father? What did they do? How did they contribute? What was unique about them? How far can you go back? Because there is this knowledge that you can get from here, but then the Abosom, the Orisha, the Vodou, your honorable ancestors and ancestresses will begin to feed you information and send you to look in different places where you begin to fill in the gaps. They can't erase us. They can't erase us. And the more they try, the more who we are is rising up to testify to the fact that we are created by Mother and Father God. And no matter what they do or how they do it, no matter what they do or how they do it, they cannot erase us. And they cannot erase knowledge of us within our own minds. They did a really good job. But this was a job that they could never, ever complete. And they know it. They know it. They're in a race against time. That whole transhumanism, I don't even know much about that. But my friend Jeff Kennedy, he says, oh, all of that is part of eugenics, which I thought was done a long time ago, back when they used to sterilize our women and our men. I thought eugenics was finished. I didn't realize it just took on a different form, different names. You know, he says it's alive and well in our schools in Washington, D.C., in these old laws they have on the books. And so when we don't have knowledge of who we are, we don't even know what we're fighting against, and we don't know how to fight. It's why I always say we have to go back to the altar, because that is where we receive information. That's where we receive instruction. And that's where we begin to put the pieces of our life back together again. Ashe.